Chapter 9. The Royal Family of Ev. The Tin Woodman was the first to address the meeting. "To begin with," he said, "word came to our noble and illustrious ruler, Ozma of Oz, that the wife and 10 children, 5 boys and 5 girls, of the former King of Ev, by name Evaldo, has been enslaved by the Gnome King and are held prisoners in his palace underground. Also that there was no one powerful enough to release them. And naturally, Ozma wished to undertake the adventure of liberating our poor prisoners, but for a long time she could find no way to cross the great desert between the two countries. And finally she went to a friendly sorceress in our land named Glinda the Good, who heard the story and at once presented Ozma with the magic carpet." Again, it feels like, yeah, we had this really, really difficult thing. You know, how do you cross the desert? And then it's like, oh, just a carpet. Easy. Here it is, magic carpet. All you had to do was ask. Which is actually a good life lesson, right? A lot of times we have the answers. We just need to look around for them. Anyway, that was a lot of exposition, and it's not done yet. But I'm just curious about this magic carpet, because that is such a useful tool that could have gotten us out of quite a number of tough situations, right? Throughout the last couple of books. And who knows, maybe it was being used by Aladdin or somebody. But yeah, I just feel like my guess is that this magic carpet is just they're all just gonna forget about it and never use it again, because it feels like they can now get out of most dangerous situations quite easily. And nothing against carpets. You gotta love them. You gotta love them. Okay. Anyway, as soon as she received the carpet, our gracious ruler ordered me to assemble her army, which I did. You behold in these bold warriors the pick of the finest soldiers of Oz, and if we are obliged to fight the Gnome King, every officer, as well as every private, will fight fiercely to death. Then Tik-Tok spoke, which is weird. That's a weird sentence, just in itself. Never before have we just someone's about to speak. You just let them speak, you know? That's how writing goes. Oh, okay. Time magazine calls this book one of the top 100 children's novels of all time, which really makes you question Time magazine's credibility. I don't know. Again, it's not a bad book. Let's be honest. It's not good, but it's entertaining, let's say. Right? It's entertaining. "Why should you fight the Gnome King?" he asked. "He has done no wrong." "No wrong?" cried Dorothy. "Isn't it wrong to imprison a queen mother and her 10 children? Okay, yes. I'm all on board with Dorothy now. Well done. "They were sold to the Gnome King by King Evaldo," replied Tik-Tok. "It was the King of Ev who did wrong, and when he realized he had done, he jumped into the sea and drowned himself." "Well, this is news to me," said Ozma thoughtfully. "I had supposed the Gnome King was to blame in the matter. But in any case, he must be made to liberate the prisoners." Yes, this is an excellent point, and historically relevant. Let's see. Okay. "My Uncle Evaldo was a very wicked man," declared the Princess Lingwalder. "If he had drowned himself before he sold his whole family, no one would have cared. But he sold them to the powerful Gnome King in exchange for a long life, and afterwards destroyed his life by jumping into the sea." "Well then," said Ozma, "he did not get the long life, and I'm sorry, this is not something to laugh at. "He did not get the long life. He did not get the long life, and the Gnome King must give up the prisoners. For the king, whose name is Roquat of the Rocks, owns a splendid palace underneath the great mountain which is at the north end of his kingdom, and he has transformed the queen and her children into ornaments and a bric-a-brac to decorate his rooms." "I would like to know," said Dorothy, "who is the Gnome King?" "Well, I will tell you," replied Ozma. "He is said to be the ruler of the underground world, and commands the rocks and all that the rocks contain. Under his rule there are many thousands of gnomes, who are queerly shaped, but the powerful sprites that labor at the furnaces and the forges of their king, making gold and silver and other metals which they conceal in the crevices of the rocks, so that those living upon the earth's surface can only find them with great difficulty." and they make diamonds and rubies and emeralds, which they hide in the ground, so that the kingdom of the gnomes is wonderfully rich. And we all have precious stones and silver and gold is what we take from the earth and the rocks where the gnome king, I mean to say, has hidden them. I'm losing my voice. Ooh, that was a lot. I understand, said Dorothy, nodding her head wisely. For some reason we often steal his treasures, continued Ozma. The ruler of the underground world is not fond of those who live upon the earth's surface, and never appears among us. If we wish to see King Roquat of the Rocks, we must visit his own country, where he is all-powerful, and therefore it will be a dangerous undertaking. But for the sake of the poor prisoners, said Dorothy, we ought to do it.
We shall do it, replied the Scarecrow, although it requires a lot of courage for me to go near the furnaces of the Gnome King. For I am only stuffed with straw, and a single spark of fire might destroy me entirely.
Okay. So maybe we are getting that foreshadowing in Book 1 might actually come into play. I don't know. The furnaces also may melt my tin, said the Tin Woodman. But I'm going. Okay. Well, thanks for bringing that up. I can't bear heat, remarked Princess Lingwal, yawning lazily. So I shall stay home. But I wish you success in your undertaking, for which I am heartily tired of ruling this stupid kingdom. And I need more leisure at which to admire my beautiful heads. Okay, that's probably for the best, to be honest, because you never know when she wants somebody's head. We do not need you, said Ozma. The zingers just keep coming. For if with the aid of my brave followers I cannot accomplish this purpose, then it would be useless for you to undertake the journey. Quite true, sighed the princess. So, if you'll excuse me, I will now retire to my cabinet. I've worn this head for quite a while, and I want to change it for another. When she had left them, and you may be sure no one was sorry to see her go. Oh, I am sure. Ozma said to Tik-Tok, Will you join our party? I am the slave of the girl Dorothy, who rescued me from prison, replied the machine. Where she goes, I will go. Of course. Oh, I'm going with my friends, of course, said Dorothy quickly. I wouldn't miss the fun for anything. Will you go too, Billina? Of course Billina's going. Where else would she go? What? To be sure, said Billina in a careless tone. She was smoothing down the feathers of her back and not paying much attention. Me too. Samesies.
Heat is just in her line, remarked the Scarecrow. If she is nicely roasted, she will be better than ever.
Well then, said Ozma, we will start to arrange for the kingdom of the gnomes tomorrow at daybreak. No retort back about roasting the chicken? We're just going to let it slide? No HR report for that one. All right, okay. And in the meantime, we will rest and prepare ourselves for the journey. Although Princess Lingwalder did not appear again to her guests, the palace servants waited upon the strangers from Oz and did everything in their power to make the party comfortable. There were many vacant rooms at their disposal, and a brave army of 27 was easily provided for and liberally feasted. The Cowardly Lion and the Hungry Tiger were harnessed from the chariot and allowed to roam at will throughout the palace, where they frightened the servants into fits, although they did no harm at all. At one time, Dorothy found the little maid Nanda crouching in terror in a corner, with the Hungry Tiger standing before her. You certainly look delicious, the beast was saying. Yeah, that's why the terror. Will you kindly give me permission to eat you? Yeah, okay. Eating someone kindly is no different than eating someone meanly, I think. Like, it's the same result. No, cried the maid in reply. Then, said the tiger, yawning frightfully, please get me about 30 pounds of tenderloin steak, cooked rare, with a peck of boiled potatoes on the side, and 5 gallons of ice cream for dessert. I'll do the best I can, said Nanda, as she ran away as fast as she could go. Ice cream. That would be a good thing for me to eat a little as an example to the listeners. Are you so very hungry? Asked Dorothy in wonder. You can hardly imagine the size of my appetite, replied the tiger sadly. It seems to fill my whole body, from the end of my throat to the tip of my tail. I'm very sure the appetite doesn't fit me, and
It's too large for the size of my body. Someday when I meet a dentist with a pair of forceps, I'm going to have it pulled.
Sorry, have it pulled?
What, your tooth? Asked Dorothy. No, my appetite, asked the Hungry Tiger.
All right. So now we need the lizard to give someone less appetite, I guess. I don't know.
The little girls spent most of the afternoon talking to the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman, who had all related to her all that had taken place in the Land of Oz since Dorothy had left it. She was very much interested in the story of Ozma, who had been, when a baby, stolen by a wicked witch and transformed into a boy. She did not know that she had ever been a girl until she was restored to her natural form by the kind sorceress. Then it was found that she was the only child of the former ruler of Oz and was entitled to rule in his place. Ozma had many adventures, however, before she regained her father's throne, and she was accompanied by a pumpkin-headed man, a highly magnified and thoroughly educated Wobblebug, and a wonderful sawhorse that had been brought to life by means of a magic powder.
Oh, is the Wobblebug kind of sounds like my tiger, probably.
Yes, thoroughly educated. I'm highly magnified. The tiger's a little bit deeper, I guess. More menacing, but not actually menacing.
All right. Blah, 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 blah.
A thoroughly educated Wobblebug, and a wonderful sawhorse that had been brought to life by the means of a magic powder.
So basically, that was all of book 2, just wrapped into a couple of sentences. We could have skipped it, but now we know.
Okay. The Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman had assisted her, but the great forest of the King of Beasts knew nothing of Ozma until after she began reigning as the Princess of Oz. Then he journeyed to the Emerald City to see her, and on hearing that she was about to visit the land of Ev to set the royal family of that country free, the Cowardly Lion begged to go with her, and brought along his friend, the Hungry Tiger, as well.
Yeah, that part we literally just met the Hungry Tiger, so you don't need to explain to us. Anyway,
having heard the story, Dorothy related to them her own adventures, and then went out with her friends to find the sawhorse which Ozma had caused to be shod with plates of gold so that its legs would not wear out. Then they came upon the sawhorse standing motionless beside a garden gate. But when Dorothy was introduced to him, he bowed politely and blinked his eyes, which were knots of wood, and wagged his tail, which was only the branch of a tree.
"What a remarkable thing to be alive!" exclaimed Dorothy.
"I quite agree with you," replied the sawhorse in a rough but not unpleasant voice. "A creature like me has no business to live, as we all know, but the magic powder did it, so I cannot justly be blamed."
"Of course not," said Dorothy. "And you seem to be of some use." Again, enough with the "you're only valuable if you're super useful." "'Cause I noticed the Scarecrow riding upon your back."
"Oh, yes, I'm of use," replied the sawhorse, "and I never tire, never have to be fed or cared for in any way."
"Are you intelligent?"
asked the girl.
Hey, Dorothy, that is not a good first question to ask somebody.
"Not very," said the creature. "It would be foolish to waste intelligence on a common sawhorse when so many professors need it. But I know enough to obey my masters and to giddy up and whoa when I'm told to, so I'm pretty well satisfied."
That night Dorothy slept in a pleasant little bedchamber next to that occupied by Ozma of Oz, and Billina perched upon the foot of the bed and tucked her head under her wing and slept as soundly in that position as did Dorothy upon her soft cushions. But before daybreak everyone was awake and stirring, and soon the adventurers were eating a hasty breakfast in the great dining room of the palace. Ozma sat on the head of a long table on a raised platform, with Dorothy on her right hand and the Scarecrow on her left. The Scarecrow did not eat, of course, but Ozma placed him near her so that she might ask his advice on the journey while she ate. Lower down the table were the 27 warriors of Oz, and at the end of the room the lion and tiger were eating out of a kettle that had been placed on the floor, while Billina fluttered to pick around any scraps that might be scattered. It did not take long to finish the meal, and the lion and the tiger were harnessed into the chariot, and the party was ready to start off for the Gnome King's palace. First rode Ozma, with Dorothy beside her in the golden chariot, holding Billina fast in her arms. Then came the Scarecrow on the sawhorse, and the Tin Woodman and Tik-Tok, marching side by side just behind them. After these trampled the army, looking brave and handsome in their splendid uniforms. The generals commanded the colonels, and the colonels commanded the majors, and the majors commanded the captains, and the captains commanded the private, who marched with an air of proud importance because it required so many officers to give him orders. And so the magnificent procession left the palace and started along the road just as day was breaking. And by the time the sun came out, they had made good progress toward the valley that led to the Gnome King's domain.